How strange would it be to find a dog walking on its hind legs?
How strange would it be if that dog lived less than 2 miles from the nearest town?
That's the story we're here to tell today, the Dogman in Appalachia, Virginia. I'm Charlie Lawson.
And I'm J.D. Lawson. Welcome to Strange Appalachia.
So today we're investigating at Roaring Branch, Virginia, and that's halfway between Appalachia, Virginia and Big Stone Gap, Virginia. The reason we're here is because of the Dogman. There are several local legends about the Dogman. One is that its mother was a witch, and it actually runs this area. That's one of the more supernatural legends. Another one pertains to another cryptid called the Snellygaster. It's a pretty funny name, but it actually originates up around Middle Virginia. If that's a true creature, there's no reason it couldn't spread this far down. We're really not that far away. It's about a 4-hour drive, and for a group of animals or creatures to travel that far away is not unheard of. The Snellygaster, supposedly its arch enemy was a wolfman, something that was truly terrifying to it. I don't know why the Snellygaster was scared of a wolfman, considering it's supposed to be a giant bird with an octopus for a mouth. That's unbelievably terrifying compared to a wolfman.
Yeah, so the reason we're here at Roaring Branch as opposed to any of the other places that this legend occurs is we have 3 sightings in this general area, and Roaring Branch acts as a natural funnel between 2 of the sightings, which occur at the base of the mountain along the road that runs between Appalachia and Big Stone Gap, and also follows the Powell River, which is a natural water source. And then it follows Roaring Branch up into the mountain to the top of the mountain where there's a little community called Keokee. Keokee is where the second story you're going to hear today originates from. So this area is sort of an epicenter of this creature sighting in this area, although all 3 of these stories occurred a fair distance in the past, 5-6 years, till the most recent one till today. So we're not necessarily actually looking for the Dogman, even though if we find evidence or something, we'll certainly share that. We're here more to tell the story and highlight the area for right now.
The first story I want to tell today is of a young woman that was driving by Roaring Branch and allegedly hit the Dogman. She said that the Dogman itself ran out in front of her, and when she hit it, it rolled over her car and then behind her car. She proceeded on up the road, and when she did, she looked out her window and saw the Dogman running beside her car. This was the very first person that I ever interviewed when I did something supernatural or paranormal related, and so the story really interested me. It's one of those things that kind of stuck with me throughout the years, and as you'll hear in the other stories I'm telling, that the Dogman is something that tends to linger around this area.
Alright, so as Charlie was telling the first story earlier, he was talking about this lady who was driving and hit what she thought was the Dogman. What I want to talk about now are some of the possible real-life, biological in nature, scientifically proven things that the Dogman could be. First thing is it's a misidentification of some animal that we know exists, such as a bear or maybe even an actual dog, one of the larger breeds maybe. Bear are definitely known to walk on their hind legs at times. Most of the time though they do that to sniff out and identify whatever it is they're trying to figure out. They have a very good sense of smell. They'll stand up on their hind legs to try to use that sense more. So it wouldn't be likely that one would be following a car on its hind legs, but maybe just standing up to try to get a better idea of what had just hit it maybe, and she panicking, thought that it was following her. Could be the same thing with a dog. Another thing it could be is this lady, we don't know what time of night she was coming in. She could have been awake for a while, and it could be sleep deprivation. She could have been seeing things or hallucinating. Could have been something that she didn't really know what it was, but her brain was trying to figure it out, and the best it could come up with was a dog walking on its hind legs. We don't really know. As Charlie said, this was one of the first stories that he investigated, and it occurred quite a while ago. So there's no real way to investigate that story currently. All we have is the story itself. So just based on what I'm hearing, those are the two possibilities that have come into my mind.
So the second story I'd like to tell about the dogman actually occurred with a woman at Hardee's. I used to work with her in the morning time when I opened breakfast shift there. She said that one night her husband and her were sitting on a couch, and a dog came through the door, was on its hind legs, and actually it grabbed the guy, and they started wrestling. He was eventually able to overpower it and throw it through a window. It's a pretty crazy story to hear. It's not one that I would believe at first. But when her husband came in to pick her up that evening, I asked him about it, and he said the exact same thing. The thing that really strikes me about this story is they both live pretty close to Roaring Branch in a place called Keokee. Actually, Keokee connects to Roaring Branch from Appalachia. So it's a perfect run from one area to the other for anything to pass through. If there is a dogman, it may explain why he's seen in this area so many times, is maybe it's actually in Keokee is where this thing or these things are based out of, and they're using this trail to run to the bottom of the mountain to get some water. Once again, we don't know for sure exactly what this thing is, but if it is a biological animal, it would definitely need water and food to survive.
Some of the other possibilities of what the dogman is may not necessarily have a basis in scientific fact. They could be more supernatural or paranormal in nature. And if that's the case, we have several options that we could go with here. First of all, as Charlie mentioned in the intro, Dogman is more of a northern legend. Traces back to some Native Americans in that area, and there's no reason that story couldn't trickle down into this area as well. We also have the local story where the dogman's mother was a witch. Again, supernatural in origin, but a flesh and blood creature, but more supernatural in the fact that a witch birthed it. Another possibility could be that it's another cryptid from the area that there are a ton of cryptid sightings of, which is Bigfoot, and people are just thinking it's a dogman instead of Bigfoot. Again, large, 2 legs, walks around, covered in hair. People could think it was a dog, really a Bigfoot. We really don't have any evidence of that, other than the fact that Bigfoot is probably the most common cryptid sighting in this area. So those are some things to think about as you listen to Charlie's third story coming up in a minute.
So the final story I want to tell today is one that comes from who I think is the best witness of all, and that was my grandmother. She was kind of a mountain woman, someone that definitely knew the creatures and also the plants in the area. And she said one morning while her and my uncle were going to church that something strange happened. A dog ran in front of her on its hind legs. She said this is something that really stood out to her because obviously dogs don't run on their hind legs. She even went as far as to ask me what I thought it could be. I said, well, obviously I don't know what it is if you don't. She said, the strangest thing at all is that it came out at Roaring Branch. This is something that, automatically made me start thinking about the dogman. So here's a third sighting, this one from someone who I consider pretty reputable, my grandmother, in the same area as the last 2 sightings. So I honestly don't know what the creature will be up here. Something that before I might write off as to sleep exhaustion or sleep deprivation or maybe just misidentification. This is a woman that I know for a fact could identify a dog or a bear or anything that would come in front of her. So I'll leave it up to you to figure out what you think it is. So I've told 3 stories today. All 3 of them relate back to the stories of the Snellygaster and how the dogman's mother may be a witch.
Yeah, and those stories, at this point, that's all they are, is stories. We've been up here all afternoon, and we have seen 0 evidence that anything other than maybe a bear or other hikers are here. There's certainly no evidence that a dog is walking around on its hind legs. But we hope you have enjoyed these stories and our thoughts on the possible origins of the dogman. And if you have, we encourage you to hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon for another episode of Strange Appalachia.